live once again. Good evening, folks. Mobile Geezer here with Friday Night Tech Talk. As we do every Friday, we'll be talking about a few stories of the last week, from last Friday to this Friday. We do this every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're new here, and I guess I should mention, which I've been neglecting to mention, we're simultaneously live on YouTube and both my Facebooks, George Hayes on Facebook or Mobile Geezer on Facebook. So you can watch any of the three live. I should put that in my description. I've been neglecting to do that lately. But if you're new here, welcome and glad to have you here. And as I try to remember to do every Friday, I don't do it every Friday. I want to show you which phones I have with me tonight. So I have my iPhone 14 Pro Max. And as most of you know, I change watches every day. I have three smart watches: Pixel Watch, Apple Watch SE, and the Galaxy Watch 5, sorry. So tonight I have my Pixel Watch on, so naturally today, and today was my Pixel Watch day, so naturally I had my Pixel 7 with me, but I was at work today. I also had my Z Flip 4 with me all day today too. But when I came over here to do the show, I figured, okay, let's carry the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which I wore my Apple Watch yesterday, so that's what I wore yesterday. And so you saw my folding screen phone, but I hadn't started my Surface in a couple of weeks, so I thought, all right, let me start up my Surface. So this is with two separate screens, but this is my other folding phone. So, and it still works great. This is the original Microsoft Surface Duo. Still works great. And I just like to start it up every couple of weeks and use it a little bit. I probably should take it out and do some camera stuff, because I haven't done that in probably over a year, and see if we've got any upgrades that have made any difference. But anyway, let me get back to the comments. Mario, you're here. Glad to see you, brother. Glad to have you in here. You're on Facebook. First one in tonight was Eleanor. She, as always, wished everybody a good weekend. And then Brian came in. He's been getting here early every week. Most weeks nowadays, it's usually he or Eleanor first. So, but Mario, always honored when you join us. So glad you're here. So you've seen my phones for tonight. And as most of you know, Mike won't be with us, I don't think, until sometime next month. At least that's what he said a few weeks ago. So I'm hoping he will show up at some point. And as far as Will, every once in a while, Will shows up. Never know when. And Ted has been kind of showing up lately, so that's been great. He makes the show much, much better. Let's see. Mario. I got the original Microsoft Duo also, but I just use mine on Wi-Fi. And pretty much the same for me. You know, when I'm broadcasting live on Friday nights, I'm in over at Eleanor's house in my original man cave, because the signal is so much better here. But I pretty much use mine on nothing but Wi-Fi. Occasionally, I'll put the SIM card in, but most of the time I don't. So everybody saying hello to everybody. Brian said, have a great weekend as always. Elmo's working tomorrow for a few hours, but then we're going out to dinner. Yeah, I don't have a SIM card. I haven't put the SIM card in mine for about, I guess, a couple of months now. But still, still a great device, and certainly way, way better than when it first came out. That's for sure. So For those who don't know, the stories for the night are on our show notes, which is on my webpage. So let me show that as I do every week. And we'll do a little preview. So here's on my webpage, and that's at, let me get my brand stuff out of the way. Okay, so over at mobilegeezer.wordpress.com, if you click on today's date, you'll just pull up the notes for tonight's stream. So while we're here, I'm just going to show you, give you a little preview of what we're going to talk about tonight. And by some miracle, there is no artificial intelligence stories for a change. I think this is the first time in about 8 weeks. So, iOS 15 and 16, lockdown mode verified and working. So I found a story on TechCrunch that lockdown mode, and we've talked about this when it first came out, I guess last year, but they actually verified that it actually protected somebody's security. So that's on TechCrunch. That's the story we're going to start out with. And then we're going to talk about the Pixel Fold, which Google Fold, Pixel Fold, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people are talking about it. It's hard to find anybody who's not talking about it. Before we get into that, though, Front Page Tech did a video today. I just saw it when I got home from work tonight. And, of course, he's the one who leaks the most information about it and is usually the most accurate. And he went over everything about it. He said he knows everything about it now. And, of course, it's going to come out at Google I/O or be announced at Google I/O. But he says, here's something special. He said next Wednesday, April 26th, I guess is next Wednesday, Google is going to put it on their site. So if you want to pre-order it, you can actually go to Google storefront and pre-order it next Wednesday. I don't know that that's true, but he thinks it is, and that's what his source told him. So I thought that was pretty unusual. So we're going to go over Google Fold, most interesting phone of the year on Tom's Guide. And following that, we're going to go back to what Front Page Tech said, Prosser. Google Fold price is going to be right up there with the Galaxy Fold. If it is, I will be passing. You can count on that. And then I only have a few stories today. I found this story that I thought was interesting. It'll be interesting for nerds anyway. Bluetooth spec sound quality will soon be better. So if you're using Bluetooth and you're taking phone calls and talking to people, it's going to get a whole lot better. It's a short story, but I just thought it was interesting. And that was on Android Police. And then I'm going to finish up with an insider take on the inevitability of social media apps not being very social anymore. And that was on The Verge. The Verge. I can't spell the word "the." Okay. But pretty interesting story. So, and that's the longest story that I have tonight. So those are the stories we're going to go over. So let me stop screen for a second. Put my branding back and back to the comments. Okay, we've got Annette in here. Annette, glad you're here. And another one of our faithfuls every week. Here's Renz from the Philippines. Welcome, Renz. Glad you're here as always, brother. And it's Eleanor. Everybody says hello to everybody, as always. All the regulars always say hello to each other. And let's see what else we've got comment-wise. Happy weekend. Hello, Annette. Okay. So I'm glad all you regulars are here, and hopefully Mario will become one of the regulars. He's coming in from Facebook, and I'm very, very happy to see him here. So I'm going to go back to the stories, and we'll go to our first story. If Ted shows up, I will let you guys know. And, of course, if by some miracle Will shows up, that would be great. So let me share screen again. Back to the stories. Okay, lockdown mode. iOS 15 and 16 lockdown mode verified and working. So we're going to go to TechCrunch and take a look. So Apple's high security mode blocked, that's what they're calling it, blocked NSO spyware, researchers say, which I think is great. This is the first proof they've had that it works, I guess. It's by Lorenzo Franceschi Bicchieri. You think with all the Italians I was raised with, I'd get there. It's got to be Bicchieri. I think it's Bicchieri. Franceschi Bicchieri. Doing my best. I think a Jersey guy could pronounce Italian, wouldn't you? Okay. Let's put this into reader view so we can get rid of some of these ads. And this was from 3 days ago. Last year, Apple launched a new feature for iPhone users who are worried about getting targeted with sophisticated spyware, such as journalists or human rights defender. And they got this from a journalist who got protected, which is great. Now, researchers say they have found evidence that the feature called lockdown mode helped block an attack by hackers using spyware made by the infamous mercenary hacking provider NSO Group. On Tuesday, the cybersecurity and human rights research group Citizen Lab released a report analyzing 3 new zero-day exploits in iOS 15 and iOS 16, meaning Apple was unaware of the vulnerabilities at the time they were used to target at least 2 Mexican human rights defenders. I think this is awesome. One of those exploits was blocked by lockdown mode. The researchers found lockdown mode was specifically designed to reduce the iPhone's attack surface. Cybersecurity lingo referring to parts of the code or features of a system prone to attacks by hackers. This is the first documented case where lockdown mode has successfully protected someone from a targeted attack. I think that's awesome. And these were 2 guys, human rights defenders. In the recent case, Citizen Lab researchers say the target's iPhones blocked the hacking attempts and showed a notification saying lockdown mode prevented someone from accessing the phone's home map. I'm glad they showed that right on the phone. So that's good. The researchers, however, note that it's possible that at some point, NSO's exploit developers may have figured out a way to correct the notification issues, such as by fingerprinting lockdown mode. So they might find some ways around this, but I still think it's great that they caught it and they know it worked. As other researchers have pointed out in the past, it's easy to fingerprint users to determine who has lockdown mode turned on. Didn't know that. But that's not to say its protections are not meaningful. As this case found by Citizen Lab shows, lockdown mode can be effective. That's great. The fact that lockdown mode seems to have thwarted and even notified targets of a real-world zero-click attack shows that it is a powerful mitigation and is cause for great optimism. I agree 100%. Bill Marczak, a senior researcher at Citizen Lab and one of the authors of the report, told TechCrunch. But as with any optional feature, the devil is always in the details. How many people will opt to turn on lockdown mode? That's true. You got to turn on for it to work. Will attackers simply move away from exploiting Apple apps and target third-party apps, which are harder for lockdown mode to secure? That's probably true, but I still think it's great that they caught it on these 2 attacks. Apple spokesperson Scott Radcliffe said in a statement, "We are pleased to see that lockdown mode disrupted this sophisticated attack and alerted users immediately, even before the specific threat was known to Apple and security researchers." So the first thing they did was send it to their phones and let them know. That's great. Our security teams around the world will continue to work tirelessly to advance lockdown mode and strengthen the security and privacy protection in iOS. And I can say, as a guy who was a programmer for a lot of years, when you get something like this, and you're one of the people that say worked on this lockdown mode, and now you've got this worldwide story saying it actually worked, that's going to give you more more impetus to get it better and make it better. That's what I think. NSO Group spokesperson Leron Bruck did not respond to a series of questions, instead sending a statement saying that Citizen Labs has repeatedly produced reports that are unable to determine the technology in use, and they refuse to share their underlying data. Didn't know that. NSO adheres to strict regulation, and its technology is used by its governmental customers to fight terror and crime around the world. Yeah, but they're also known to sell this stuff to people too. Citizen Labs report identified 3 different exploits, all zero-click, meaning they did not require any interaction by the target. By analyzing several phones that were suspected to have been hacked with NSO spyware, also known as Pegasus, which means, did a government pay for that? Who knows? Pegasus, which NSO sells exclusively to government customers, can remotely obtain a phone's location, messages, photos, and virtually anything the phone's legitimate owner can access. Now let's go back up, because this did 2 human rights defenders. So did the Mexican government pay this group to find this? Well, they tried anyway, but it was blocked. So for years, researchers at Citizen Lab, Amnesty International, and other organizations have documented several cases where NSO customers used the company's spyware to target journalists, human rights defenders, and opposition politicians. And you can see where governments would do this to their own people. It sounds like politicians in any country to me. You know how crazy I am about politicians. Citizens Lab new findings show that NSO is still alive and well despite a rocky past couple of years. In 2021, an international consortium of media organizations launched the Pegasus Project, a series of articles detailing scandals involving NSO all over the world. Gee, I wonder why. Then later that year, the U.S. government put NSO on a denied list. Good. Effectively barring any U.S. company or individual from doing business with the company. That's great. Other companies have folded, but at least for now, NSO is still able to bear these increased costs, and Pegasus remains an active threat to global civil society, Mark Sachs said. Of the recent batch of exploits, the first exploit was deployed in January 2022 by NSO customers and exploited the iPhone's Find My feature, which helps owners locate their lost or stolen phones. The second exploit, deployed starting in June 2022, and is a 2-step exploit, meaning it targets 2 features, in this case, the Find My feature and iMessage. And the last exploit, deployed starting in October 2022, exploited the iPhone's HomeKit and iMessage functionalities. In its report, Citizen Lab said the 2 Mexicans targeted by the exploits investigate human rights violations. I could see where politicians would want to stop that. Allegedly carried out by the Mexican military. Yeah, the Mexican government is a known spyware customer, so of course they hired them. They would have hired NSO. Citizen Lab reported all these exploits to Apple, which have since then pushed updates. Good. And reduce the attack surface. Apple fixed the HomeKit-based vulnerability in iOS 16.3.1, released in February. So I just thought that, to me, that's kind of a heartwarming story. So every once in a while, even if the government is hiring these people, the good guys do get a little victory. So I thought that was great. So I just wanted to get that story out there. Say back to the comments. Stop screen. Okay. And Brian, as always, Brian, thank you so much. You're always very, very faithful. And you know it's going to a good tech course, that's for sure. So let's go on to our next story. And if it's just me and Ted does not join us, it's going to be a quick night, but we all knew that. So next story. Google Fold. Yeah, in some places, I think I called it Google Fold here, and then further down, I called it Pixel Fold. At least I thought I did. So, Google Fold, most interesting phone of the year. And this was on Tom's Guide. And of course, this is an opinion piece. So this was from Mike Spoonhour, is from 4 days ago. Forget iPhone 15. The Google Pixel Fold is the most exciting phone of 2023. And then it's time for something different. Let's go into review, get rid of some of these ads. It's come to this, yeah, this is, I love the way this starts. It's come to this in iPhone 15 rumor land. We're obsessing over whether there will be 2 volume buttons or 1 long volume rocker on the iPhone 15 Pro. This now counts for excitement in terms of leaks, folks, and I'm over it. I can understand that. That is very true. Meanwhile, Google is reportedly launching its very first foldable phone, finally, we all hope, at Google I/O 2023 in the Google Pixel Fold. While I certainly will keep an eye on iPhone 15 rumors. Hey, Google, stop. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that, folks. I know why, because I said the magic word here. While I certainly will keep an eye on iPhone 15 rumors from now all the way to September, I'm personally more excited for the potential arrival of the Pixel Fold. Here's why. Pixel Fold is a highly anticipated phone. Plastic mock-up right here. A shorter design, that's one of the key things people are expecting. We've literally been waiting a couple of years for Google's first foldable, and if I'm going to keep saying that word, you're probably going to hear more from that speaker. And there were some rumors that the Pixel Fold could launch at Google I/O 2022 last year. That's true. Then that event came and went, and we reported in October that the Pixel Fold could launch in March. Well, that didn't happen either. We now have a rumored Pixel Fold release date of June 27th, although pre-orders could start as soon as the same day as Google I/O on May 10th. And I've already told you in the beginning, John Prosser said today his sources are telling him that next Wednesday, only on the Google site, you'll be able to pre-order the phone. So anybody who's interested, take a look next Wednesday. So there's a lot of anticipation around this launch, even if the eventual release date will be more than a month away from the announcement. There's just less excitement from me around the iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Pro launch, as we know it's coming just like clockwork this September. That's true. Samsung finally gets some foldable competition. Now, of course, anybody could say with the, was it 3 Chinese phones that have foldables, which people seem to love? Samsung has competition, but not in this country, because those were not released here. Google has sat on the sidelines of the best foldable phone wars for years, as Samsung has dominated the market, especially in the US. That's true. And now that we're almost up to the Galaxy Z Fold 5, it looks like Google will finally have a response to Samsung's flagship. It sounds like Google's device will have a shorter design than the Fold 5, which should make it a bit easier to fit in a pocket and hopefully make it more comfortable to hold as well. Samsung could have the advantage when it comes to performance, since the Fold 5 will likely sport the same Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy chip as the Galaxy S23 series, which is, to me, the best phone we've had this year so far. But the Pixel Fold could stand out in other ways. For one, we've heard that the Pixel Fold could be called Pixel Notepad. This is the first I've seen that name, which means it could come with a stylus. This would give the Fold 5's S Pen support some competition. That would be cool. The Pixel Fold's inside display may even feature a new Samsung-made M13 display, while the Z Fold 5 will get an older M12 panel, though the differences aren't clear at this stage. Even though Samsung is making it, they might give them the better display. Throw in Google's typically stellar camera system with the Pixel Fold, and you could have a winner, a chance for new software to shine. Google has worked hand in hand with Samsung on the software for the latest Fold series, including a taskbar that makes it easy to switch between apps. And I think that's what they're showing us here. Clicking this taskbar, I'll be able to switch between apps easily. This and other features will likely be included in the software for the Pixel Fold. This started with Android 12L, which is specifically designed for larger screens and adds support for multi-window functionality. Yeah, we were hearing about 12L a lot for a while, then it kind of faded. Those changes were rolled into Android 13. That's true. That's probably why it faded. But now that Android 14 is almost here and the consumer-facing features will be formally showcased at Google I/O 2023, I expect to see more foldable-specific enhancements to be unveiled and hopefully make their way to the Pixel Fold. If we need to wait until the Pixel 8 launches in the fall for the very first Android 14-powered hardware, at the very least, I would expect to see new Android 13 optimizations for the Pixel Fold. Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. A chance to win on price. Now, here's where it's going to get dicey for me, at least anyway. Rumored pricing is definitely up in the air, as leaker John Prosser just shared that the Pixel Fold price will be $17.99 because we were here. Well, you'll see that here in a minute. That frankly sounds like a bad idea. I agree, as that would likely be the same price as the Galaxy Z Fold 5. An earlier rumor from leaker Yogesh Brar claimed that the Pixel Fold price will be in the $1,300 to $1,500 range. And I said, if it comes in there, I'm going to have to think about it. At $17.99, not a chance. That could be up to $500 less than Samsung's foldable. If the iPhone 15 Pro Max winds up getting its rumored $100 price hike later this year, that would make Apple's phone $1,200 or just $100 less than the Pixel Fold, assuming Google pulls off the reduced pricing. That would be nice if they did. Bottom line, a lot of people shrug when they see a foldable phone asking what's the point, but Google has a real opportunity with the Pixel Fold to both convince many skeptics and take the foldable category more mainstream, at least until OnePlus launches its OnePlus 5 foldable later in the year. As with Apple, and with Apple not expected to launch its own iPhone Flip or similar foldable for another year or two, Google could manage to steal a little bit of thunder from Apple and Samsung. Let's hope. So that's the first story. I still have one more, so let's get rid of this one and get a little bit of the comments. And Renz is always hanging on for that mini. I know you are, Renz. Brian saying Pixel 4a. Yeah, Renz wants a revamped Pixel 4a. I know Renz loved his 4a. Updated specs and camera hardware. And Brian says, I heard they're shrinking the Pixel 8. That I did not know. Interesting. To 6.2 inches. Not sure if that is compact enough for you, Renz. It doesn't sound like it, but I would think, Renz, you're going to be happy with anything smaller, I would think. Brian says, Pixel Fold is going to be Pixel Flop. I'm thinking if it's going to be $1,800, $1,799, yeah, it's probably going to be a flop. It certainly will be with me because I'm not paying $1,800 for it. That's just me, though. So, all right, let's go on to our next story. And that's this one again from Ron Price. And this, even though we talked about the price, this goes into it with a little more in-depth, and it's not a very long story. And this was on the Android Central. I forgot to put Android Central here. So let's go take a look. And this is from 4 days ago. Pixel Fold set to debut at Google I/O 2023 with an eye-watering price tag. That's because now everybody's saying $1,800. Try Andrew Myrick, always a good writer. Let's hope this venture pays off for Google? Well, if they go with the higher price, I don't think so, but I've been wrong before. All right, read a view. Okay, so I'm going to skip this one. We'll just read it. Those of us who have been impatiently waiting for the oft-rumored Google Pixel Fold might not have much longer to wait. According to Jon Prosser, Google will unveil its first foldable phone at Google I/O 2023, which kicks off on May 10th. So just so you know, the stuff I told you before about Jon Prosser, if you go to Front Page Tech, he did a video today telling everything about the Pixel Fold. So if you take a look at Front Page Tech, you'll get the latest that he has. Prosser didn't share much in the way of what the Pixel Fold will have to offer. Yeah, because this new video didn't come out until today. However, he did reveal that the phone will be available for pre-order from Google's online storefront on May 10th. So now we know this suspicion is next Wednesday. It'll be available for pre-order too. With carrier availability set to come on May 30th. Lastly, Prosser states that the phone will be officially released on June 27th, giving Google a little less than a month between the announcement and release. The Pixel Fold rumor mill has picked up quite substantially in recent weeks. It sure has, with one of the most recent reports claiming that Google's foldable phone will use a new type of OLED display. Yeah, I saw that too. This is said to carry a code name of M13, but it's currently unknown how this will differ from the OLED display found on the Z Fold 4 and Flip 4. But we saw the difference in the last story. The M13 is, I guess, the more advanced than the M12 that's going to be on the 5. If you are hoping that Google would take a conservative approach to pricing, Prosser has some bad news. He claims the Pixel Fold will be priced at $17.99, the same price as the Galaxy Z Fold 4 and probably the 5. Also, in today's video, he said the $17.99 will be for the 128 or 250. Anyway, the 512 version, he says, will be $19.99. So if you want the higher spec, you're going to have to pay $200 more bucks. That's what he said. He's usually right about what he says, folks. So just letting you know. This has likely been one of the biggest concerns when it comes to the Pixel Fold, as the phone is likely to be powered by the same chip as the Pixel 7 lineup. The Tensor G2 offers a much better experience than its predecessor. However, it simply doesn't compare to what the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 offers on phones like the Galaxy S23 Ultra. I agree. That's not to mention Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 5 is likely to land sometime in August, offering a refined foldable experience. Yeah, we have to see how much upgrade there's going to be from the 4 to the 5. Google has been working to improve its apps with better tablet support, which would be important when the Pixel Fold is open. But Samsung offers quite a few extra tweaks and features to manipulate apps to work as you would expect, even on a foldable display. And that's very true for the Flip also. Google I/O 2023 is set to kick off on May 10th, and it could be even bigger than last year's event. Not only are we expecting to see the Pixel Fold, but the Pixel 7a, Pixel Tablet are likely to be announced, and maybe Google will give us an early look at the Pixel 8 ahead of a full release. So, and yeah, last year I skipped the 6A, which was the first A I didn't get in a while, but I'm thinking about getting the 7. And now there's a rumor. Remember, last year's 6A was $450. Now there's a rumor that the 7A is going to be $499. Right now, you can get the 7 on sale for $450. So we could end up in a situation where the 7A is costing more than the current sale price of the 7, so, which is kind of crazy. But just thought I'd bring that up because that's what I saw online today in a couple of videos. So let's get out of here and stop screen. Back to, okay, to the comments. Don, glad to have you here, brother. Don's coming in from Oklahoma, right down not Nebraska. I tend to confuse Nebraska and Oklahoma in my head, but yeah, you're coming in from Oklahoma. That's right. Brian says, "Hey, so getting more of our regulars in here, which is awesome." So we're all excited about the Pixel Fold, but as I said, for me, if it's going to be $1,800, I'm going to have to pass. If it's the 13 to 15 that past rumors have said, then I'm going to have to consider it. So we'll see what happens. And see, no Ted, no Will, nobody's come in. So we'll just move on to our next story. I've only got a couple of more stories, a short week. So share screen. Okay, back to tonight's notes. I just thought this was kind of interesting for us nerds. Bluetooth speech sound quality will soon be better. And this was an Android police story. And like I said, I just thought this was a pretty cool story for us nerds, especially those of us who are into the Pixel Buds big time. So Bluetooth calls on Android are about to get better, super wideband better than HD voice, which is what we have now. And that's by Jules Wing, who always does excellent work. So and this was from 5 days ago. So I guess it was from Monday. Let's go into read review, get rid of some of these ads. One of the big bummers about using even any of the best wireless headsets is the fact that even without any environmental noise, you know the best you'll sound coming out of the other side of your microphone and into your partner's ears is mediocre. It's even worse if you're taking a call while driving. That is true. Commercial implementations of Bluetooth have come a long way for listeners, but until recently, we haven't seen much for call quality. But Android could be making a way for vehicle-based outbound audio to get better, which I think is great. Like I said, this is for us nerds. Android nerd Michelle Rahman, with a hat tip to fellow Android nerd Luca Stefani, notes a recently applied patch to the Android open source project repository, which implements features related to super wideband speech as provided for in Bluetooth's hands-free profile version 1.9. In short, this will expand the range of frequencies. This is cool stuff, I think. Reproduced through hands-free devices. The standard in use on the Android OS side dates from HDP version 1.6 and is known in the telephoning industry as wideband. It is specified to cover frequencies from 50 hertz to 7 kHz and is also commercially termed as HD voice. So we have that now. Delivery happens through a special HFP dedicated version of the SBC codec called MSBC, not to be confused with the television station. And making the step from HFP version 1.8 to version 1.9, which is still in the drafting stage, so it's not quite there yet, Android will upgrade to super wideband to get this 50 hertz to 14K hertz. So high end was 7K hertz here, 14. So we've doubled up, which is great, I think. And used a relatively new LC3 codec to make that happen. That's just short of full band reproduction. So there's 20K would be full band, which most consumer Bluetooth audio gear is capable of. The sample rate also gets doubled in the switch from 16K hertz to 32K hertz. Well, I think I'm kind of excited to hear what this sounds like. And I know it's only for phone calls and stuff, but it's still, to me, it's still somewhat exciting. All things considered, this will be a great leap in call quality, moving from wireless device to wireless device to wireless network to wireless. Okay, you get the idea, especially in a car. We'll also need hardware manufacturers to follow suit in their own ways, but hey, at least we're on the way there. So I just thought it was kind of a cool, nerdy story for us nerds. So All right, let me go back and see. Let's see. Don says he'll be happy with the 7 series. Yeah, I've got the regular 7, but since I skipped the 6A last year, if I don't get the fold, I'm probably leaning towards getting the 7A and then comparing it with the 7. We'll see. Let's see. 7 series. Brian says if it uses the Tensor 2, I'm not so. Yeah, Brian does not like that Tensor 2 chip at all. Tensor, yeah, Brian had a lot of problems with it overheating. I just got the NeoFlex screen protector. I like it. Oh, by the way, I have had 0 problems with the 7 overheating, but I think Mike had one video where he did have it overheating a bit when he did use the video a lot. Let's see. So he just got the screen protector. Brian's asked the advantage of it. Don says easy to install without dust bunnies. Okay, yeah. I don't use screen protectors, but yeah, an easy one to install. That's a great one. He says also good on curved displays. That's very good to know because those I know are harder to install. So, okay, I've got one more story left. So I'm going to go, let's see. Don had one more comment. I've had 0 issues with my Silver 7. I guess he meant to say overheating as well, 7 Pro. So that's good because the 7 Pro initially had more overheating problems than the 7 did. But so Don's not having any with his Pro. I'm not having any with my 7. So all the way around, that's good to know. All right, so I'm going to back to sharing screen. Okay. So here we go to my last story. Now, of course, I always go to glowing rectangles at the end, but this is my last official story of the week. And this is kind of a long one, and I may not read it all, but I just thought it was a pretty interesting story. I said an insider take on the inevitability of social media apps not being very social anymore, and you'll see what I mean. And this was on The Verge. So social media is doomed to die. After 7 years at Snapchat, I finally learned the truth about why our most important apps seem destined to disappoint us. And this is a very good story with very logical conclusions. And it's by Ellis Hamburger. And if we look down here, so he doesn't work for The Verge anymore, but they asked him to do this story. Ellis Hamburger was a reporter for The Verge between 2012 and 2014 before leaving to work at Snapchat. So after leaving Snapchat last year, so he was there 7 years, he went to work at the browser company. We asked Ellis to write about what he had learned during his time working for one of the hottest social media startups of the 2010s. Disclosure, Elliot is a current Snap shareholder. I thought that was classy that they put that because they didn't have to put that. Okay, so let's go into reader view. I thought this time would be different. More specifically, I thought Snapchat would be different. I spent more than 7 years there writing almost everything from in-app copy to pitch decks, trying to make Snapchat different from every other social media app. And then the other day, I received a push notification from the app telling me to wish my nemesis a happy birthday. This might read as normal or even expected to most of you, but I recognized the notification for what it really was. Get this, a death knell for a social media platform past its prime. Now, he worked there 7 years, so he ought to know. From its earliest days, Snap wanted to be a healthier, more ethical social media platform. That's how they all start. A place where popularity wasn't always king and where monetization would be through creative tools that supported users, not ads that burden them. They all start out that way. I preached that friends mattered more than followers and acquaintances, and that moments consumed in chronological order, like in real life, were better than those mixed up by an algorithm. And I impressed on new hires that we were building something different from the Facebooks and Twitters of the world, except Facebook now own. Let's see. No, that's true. Sorry about that. And would never resort to their manipulative growth hacking. That's what he thought. This was why I joined Snapchat in the beginning, but in the end, Snap had given in to the most common of growth hacks, a push notification demanding the shallowest of interactions, like they all do. To me, this notification didn't indicate an imminent death for Snap's revenue streams, which could take many years to dwindle, but of its relevance to those of us who use it every day. Because when you're begging your users to just open the app, something isn't quite working. He gets very logical about this, and it makes a lot of sense. This cycle has become all too familiar to me. Sadly, this story is not just about Snap. No, it's about all of them. It's about a pattern that all social media apps seem doomed to repeat, to veer from their initial promise of a place to connect and share with friends and family towards something entirely different. Right, it's inevitable. How is it possible that social media apps always seem fated to manipulate and disappoint us? It's all about the money, folks. This cycle has become all too familiar to me after growing up on AIM and MySpace. So he's not that young. Going to college on Facebook and watching dozens of social companies rise and fall as a reporter at Insider and The Verge. So he's been around as somewhat of an expert for a while. Each platform began honorably with young founders enthusiastically revealing that if you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. That is still true. We're going to do things differently around here, they say through a grin. Yeah, they all say that too. And then the founders discover one by one that there's something not quite right about the business of social media. They made their apps free to scale their community, and then they found there was no turning back. Unfettered growth became the only way forward, no matter how unrecognizable the product had to become to get there, right? Because if you make it free, you've got to get ads to pay for things. Unlike most other businesses on earth that live and die by their customers' demands, social media services are caught trying to satisfy both their users and the people that actually paying for it all, investors and advertisers. The needs of these groups are dramatically different. Users want what the platform was originally for, that's true, be it ephemeral messaging, sharing photos, or otherwise. Surprising, energized spaces to connect with friends in a new way. But these use cases inevitably have a limit, that you can only post so many photos, and that's true. You only have so many friends to message, that's also true. And for investors and advertisers, that's a problem. Of course, it's a problem. So each social network has to find ways to make you send another photo, or it has to deploy a brand new feature and encourage you to use that too. And that's pretty much what they all do. More usage, more space for ads, more money for investors. When I covered the launch of Snapchat Stories for The Verge many years ago, I read it as an evolution of Snap's core mechanic, ephemeral messaging. But over the years, I came to think of it as a somewhat radical evolution from an app built and designed for messaging to an app for broadcasting, which to me is what they all become. Like the rest of social media, as I reread that piece I wrote all those years ago, it was actually clear from the beginning that Stories was intended to someday include ads. So he sees that after the fact, of course. And once that ad spigot got turned on, the cycle had officially begun. Yeah, nobody's going to turn that off. When a company submits to digital advertising, there's no avoiding the trade-offs that come with it, and users get put in the back seat. That's true, because they've got to get you to come use something new to keep the ads coming. We want the chronological feedback. We all say that. Instagram users scream into the void. That's what I used to say all the time. Here, have reels and shopping, said Instagram CEO, on the hunt for new revenue streams. We want freedom of speech, tweet the denizens of Twitter, but then our sponsored hashtags won't be brand safe, said Twitter's CEO, whoever that is this week. I thought that was good. We want to show our kinky side. Tumblr users blog to the heavens. Sorry, can't do it, said the overlords at Yahoo. It's scaring the advertisers, and that's true. And so the slow, slippery journey towards ever more misalignment between user and product continues. And it has to if you're going to make money. Even when the going's good, all life, we're told, has to grow. And more ads appear in your feed forever. It won't happen to us, we said, and then it did. Today, the product evolution of social media apps has led to a point where I'm not sure you can even call them social anymore. I 100% agree, because they're more to get you to look at the latest TikTok or whatever is the latest thing to look at than to interact with your friends. So yeah, can you call them social anymore? Probably not. At least not in the way we always knew it. They each seem to have spontaneously discovered that short-form videos, that's true, from strangers are simply more compelling than the posts and messages from friends that made up traditional social media. And that's what always happens. We always start getting these short videos and we're looking at them more and more and more and more. That's how TikTok got so big and how they became number one. Call it the carcinization of social media, an inevitable outcome for feeds built only around engagement and popularity. That's true. So one day, it's hard to say exactly when, a switch was flipped. Anyway, away from news, away from followers, away from real friends, toward the final answer to earning more time from users, highly addictive short-form videos that magically appear to numb a chaotic, crowded brain. That's true. That's where we all end up. I am here for the Japanese frog videos I see on TikTok, but in no way do I see them as a replacement for keeping up with friends and family, the goal of social media to begin with. That's true. Everything became an infinite feed. Yeah, and that's what they want you in, that infinite feed at all times. Instead of acknowledging that friend content might just be 10 minutes of your day, says Antoine Martin, the co-founder of Zenly, a delightful location sharing app that Snap acquired in 2017 and recently shuttered. And now Amo, a forthcoming social app. That's fine. You just need to find a business model that fulfills it. But when the implicit contract with investors is 100 times or bust from the get-go, inventing that business model after the fact just doesn't work. That's true. I've spent a lot of time blaming founders for changing their products at the whims of advertisers. But to any social platform's credit, the users do indeed do it to themselves. Yes, we do. Because we're the ones who keep looking at those strangers' short videos. In our own eternal quest for social validation, we're out for growth too. We readily give in to convenient advertiser-friendly features like stories, which prioritize broadcasting over simply communicating. That's true. We add more and more friends because it feels good until our close friend group has become our audience. That's true. People want to be a product, technology writer Rob Horning wrote to me via email. And I had never thought of that until I read that, but that's probably true because people want their friends following them and more friends following them. Being a product is coded as success in our society. What people don't want is to be exploited or misled. And that is hard to avoid in the context of ad-supported media. And so a bizarre symbiosis is formed between platform, user, and advertiser. Yeah, I never thought of it, but this is very true. The apps had changed, but so had users, leaving that precious early social media feeding out in the cold again. People refuse to believe that they too are responsible for the growth of today's social media, but we are. Only later do we look back and reminisce on how fun things used to be, right? Whether it was Instagram's early filters, Facebook's wall posts, Snapchat selfie messages, or Twitter's mundane text posts. But would we go back? I'm thinking we probably wouldn't. In these nostalgic sentiments, which appear on social media, of course, that is so silly. We're having nostalgia about social media, and we're the ones who changed it. I've always sensed denial. People refuse to believe that they too are responsible for the growth of today's social media, as well as the death of apps like the intimate and beautiful Path they eagerly pine for. I never heard of Path. At Snap, we knew this fate could someday come for ourselves and our users. So our imaginative design team devised ways to stop the cycle from ephemeral messages that couldn't be poured over again and again, to how stories couldn't be liked, to how deliberately hard it was to add a friend. Didn't know that. And even Snap's much publicized decision to move Kylie Jenner down the stories page below your closest friends. Yeah, that's trying to make it the way it should be, or started. A bold decision that Snap never got enough credit for. But when you're gunning for an IPO, there's simply no way to justify keeping things small. That's true. Little frictions are removed one by one. Research and development goes more into content than messaging. And lo and behold, the growth comes. Since leaving the world of social media and joining the browser company, which is where he works now, several months ago, I've had a lot of time to reflect on my past as a social media user, critic, marketer, designer, and advisor. Maybe I had to be outside to truly look in. A weird ego check for someone who thought they knew everything about this stuff. Yep. As a new crop of social platforms has started to emerge, from protocols like Mastodon to intimate apps like Locket and Be Real. The only one I've heard of is Be Real. I've noticed a change in how startups are approaching social media, and even the traditional path of starting up. These apps don't aim to put the entire college experience online as Facebook once did. They seek to create new experiences based on our needs today. And that's the whole thing. We're always looking for new experiences. These new apps and protocols are evolving more slowly, but what if that's a benefit? Perhaps now that the cost of creating a feed or messaging app have dropped precipitously and big tech innovation has shifted to other target topics, there's a vacuum for social again, maybe. As we've learned over the decades in tech, a freer space for new ideas usually wins eventually. It might take 30 years, but new inventors catch on, and they realize who their customers really are. At the beginning and end and beginning again of all social things, I wonder if this time will be different. Not so far. I wonder if we can build social technology brave enough to treat us like customers, not users, or simply find a better way to monetize the deep engagement you find on today's newest content platforms, be it Substack, Patreon, or others. Julie Young, always a keen investor and watcher, told me, monetizing, when I lost my place. Okay. Monetizing creator audience transactions directly is a much higher endeavor than monetizing off of advertising. But can these new entrants find the wherewithal to get started without the same promise? My guess is probably not. All right, I'm not going to read all the rest of this because it's still a lot left, but I think you get the point. They start out trying to be a friend and family thing, but to get the money to keep going and to keep growing, you need advertisers. So they kind of all end up in the same place. I just thought that was a very well-written article and very logical, and he makes a very good point. Let's see. And Rand is still talking. His instance is already big for me, Brian. He's still talking about that size. And like the 8 being a little smaller. Brian said Pixel 5 was ideal for me size-wise. Pixel 5 was a nice, comfortable size. But, of course, for me, big phones are no big deal. Oh, I didn't realize I said no big deal. Didn't mean it. Okay. Instant winter hand warm. That's right, Ren. You said that before. That's true, Brian. Planning to get a Pixel 5, but maybe also he's still thinking about a Pixel 5. Yeah, Don liked the story. Good points from an inside. I thought that was an excellent story. One of the best stories I've read this year. So very, very well done story. So I'm going to go on to where I always end up every week, just to let you people, just in case there's anybody who doesn't know about glowing rectangles. Let's click on that and show you guys that. So let me see. Let me get my brand stuff out of the way here for a second. Okay. Any of you guys who have videos or any blogs you write and you're trying to get exposure for yourself or anybody else, you can go to Glowing Rectangles and put a story or a video here every day. So if you go to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, you'll see the latest stories. You'll certainly get some exposure. And you can click on top and you'll see what stories got the most upvotes for today. And you have today, you can go this week, this month, this year, all time. I pretty much stick with today. So today, TK and Warren Bagnell is the one who started this, and he's the one who maintains it. And their weekly broadcast got 3 upvotes. And I'll give them an update. These guys are totally excellent. 2 of the nicest guys you'll meet. TK, I've met a couple of times at a couple of different mobile events, like in Vegas. And one I've never met, but he actually let me have a phone to use for a few weeks, just clearly out of the blue. That's the kind of a guy he is. So that was the most photos. The second thing you always see is an ad. We're just talking about ads, weren't we? So the OnePlus 11 accessibility got 2 upvotes. It's an accessibility review. And Best Mini Laptops also got 2 upvotes. And there's the story we're doing right now. Ted set this up so it automatically goes here every time we broadcast. So I'm going to give myself an upvote. So there. So anyway, if you want some exposure for yourself or somebody else, it's reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, and you can post there and you'll get a little more exposure. So let me put my stuff back where it was. Okay. So every week I try to tell you guys about that stuff and let you know about it. So let me stop screen. And that's pretty much all I have tonight, folks. I'm going back to the comments. Okay, nothing new. So I hope what I try to do every week is give you, if there's a hot story or 2, I try to give you that. And you certainly know that from all the AI stories that I've been giving you for weeks. First week, I haven't done one in a long time. But I also try to find stories that I find interesting, and I hope you guys find interesting, and you just don't see everybody writing about or telling you about. So hopefully that's what I'm doing, giving you stuff that's interesting and some of what's hot too. So do this every Friday night. So I'll be back next Friday. Sometimes Ted joins me. Every once in a great while, Will join, although he's works all weekend. And I mean, he works all weekend long, every weekend. And he's got little kids at home too. And Mike is doing DoorDash the last couple of months, but according to what he said, he should be back sometime in May and joining the broadcast to some degree. Mike and Will were the two guys I started Friday Night Tech Talk with. I guess it's like 4.5 years ago now. It's been a while. And Ted came on about 3 years ago. Ted and I first met in Vegas at the CES in 2018, I believe. So every once in a while, you'll see at least one of them, or sometimes two or three, and occasionally all four of us will be on. So I'll be back next week, and I hope everybody has a very blessed weekend. And I try to remember to say every week, let's always remember we all do better when we love each other. So good night, folks. Have a wonderful weekend. See you next week.